Hey everyone! Tonight we're stepping into the shadows of Gotham City to uncover one of its most haunting secrets. The kind of truth that has been whispered about in the darkest corners of the Batcave, where heroes were forged and then broken. It's a story about the allies who walked beside Batman, the ones who started with hope but ended consumed by darkness, the protectors who became something else entirely. Before we begin this journey together, take a moment to hit that like button if you're ready for tonight's deep dive into Gotham's most tragic transformations. Subscribe if you enjoy these explorations into the hidden truths of superhero universes. Drop a comment and let me know what part of the world you're listening from. I love seeing our global community come together for these stories. Now, get comfortable, maybe dim your lights, adjust your pillows, settle into your favorite spot. Let the outside world fade away. Picture this: a warehouse in Ethiopia. The sound of laughter, cruel and manic. A crowbar striking again and again. A young boy in a red and yellow costume, broken on the concrete floor, and in the corner, a timer counting down. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. The boy looks at the bomb, then at the door his mentor will never reach in time. He whispers something, but the explosion drowns out his final words. Miles away in Gotham, Batman feels something shatter inside him that night. Something that would never heal. He doesn't know it yet, but that moment will birth something far darker than any villain he's ever faced. That broken boy will return, and when he does, he won't be Robin anymore. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the beginning, when hope still existed. Jason Todd's story begins on the streets of Crime Alley. The same blood-soaked pavement where Bruce Wayne's parents fell years before. A 12-year-old kid with a tire iron, trying to steal the wheels off the Batmobile. Can you imagine that? The audacity. The fearlessness. Batman saw something in that moment. Not just courage, but rage. Pure, unfiltered anger at a world that had abandoned him. Bruce Wayne took Jason in, made him Robin, the second boy to wear that red and yellow uniform. But Jason was different from Dick Grayson, where Dick had been acrobatic grace and natural heroism. Jason was raw aggression, barely contained. He fought like he had something to prove. Every punch carried the weight of every injustice he'd suffered on those streets. Batman noticed the violence escalating. The way Jason hit just a little too hard, smiled just a little too wide when criminals begged for mercy. Bruce told himself he could guide that rage, channel it into something noble. He was wrong. The mission to Ethiopia seemed routine. Jason discovered his birth mother might still be alive. Sheila Haywood, working at a refugee camp. Bruce let him go, let him chase that hope of family. But the Joker was already there, always 3 steps ahead, waiting with that horrible grin. The betrayal came from the person Jason trusted most, his own mother, selling him out to save herself. The Joker locked them both in that warehouse, and then came the crowbar, over and over and over, each impact breaking bones, breaking spirit, breaking the very idea that heroes always win. Jason tried to crawl toward the door, tried to save his mother even after what she'd done. That's who he was, underneath all that rage. Still a hero, still trying. The bomb's timer hit 0. Bruce found only ashes and twisted metal. He buried an empty coffin, put up a memorial in the Batcave, carried guilt like a stone in his chest. He had failed his son, failed to see the danger, failed to arrive in time, failed in every way that mattered. But death in Gotham is rarely permanent. Reality itself shattered during a multiversal crisis. Superboy Prime, a hero from another dimension, punched the walls of reality so hard that ripples spread through time itself. In his grave, Jason Todd's eyes opened. 6 months dead, suddenly alive. He clawed through 6 feet of earth with bare hands, emerging into Gotham's polluted air with no memory of who he was. For months he wandered, brain damaged, lost, a ghost haunting the city that forgot him. until Talia al Ghul found him. Daughter of the demon, she saw an opportunity, a weapon against the Batman who had spurned her father. She brought Jason to the Lazarus pit, that pool of green fire that restores life but corrupts the soul. Imagine it. Sinking into those burning waters, every nerve screaming, and then the memories flooding back all at once. His life, his death, the crowbar, the laughter, Batman's face as he chose, over and over again, not to kill the Joker, not to avenge his murdered son. Jason emerged from the Lazarus pit with clarity and purpose. He would return to Gotham, but not as Robin, never as Robin again. He would become something Batman could never be, something willing to do what needed to be done. He would become the Red Hood, and Gotham would learn to fear the dead boy who came back wrong. While Jason Todd's story unfolded in blood and resurrection, another tragedy was being written in the ancient halls of a secret organization that had existed for over 600 years, the Order of St. Dumas. A religious cult hiding behind the facade of faith, breeding assassins through genetic manipulation and psychological programming that transcended normal human understanding. Jean-Paul Valley had no idea what he truly was. He grew up believing he was ordinary, perhaps destined for computer science or engineering. His father seemed like a normal man, if distant and secretive. But when his father died in his arms, gasping out final words that made no sense, something activated inside Jean-Paul's mind, something that had been waiting there his entire life, coiled like a serpent in his subconscious. The system. Centuries of warrior memories downloaded directly into his brain through genetic encoding. Every Azrael who had ever lived, their skills and their madness, suddenly became part of him. He could fight like a master assassin despite never training. He knew languages he'd never studied. Most terrifyingly, he heard voices commanding him to punish the wicked, to serve the Order, to become the avenging angel of death. Batman encountered Jean-Paul during an investigation into the Order's activities. He saw a young man struggling against programming he didn't understand, fighting to maintain his own identity against centuries of imposed will. Bruce Wayne made a decision that night. He believed he could help Jean-Paul overcome the conditioning, believed he could turn this weapon into a hero. For a time, it worked. Jean-Paul trained with Batman, learned to suppress the system's commands, became a trusted ally in Gotham's endless war. But fate has a cruel sense of timing. Bane arrived in Gotham City with a singular purpose: break the Bat. He orchestrated the largest Arkham Asylum breakout in history. Every major villain, every twisted mind, every monster unleashed simultaneously. Batman spent 3 months hunting them down. 3 months without sleep, without rest, pushing his body beyond human limits. Bane waited until Batman was at his weakest. He attacked Wayne Manor itself, violating the one place Bruce considered safe. The fight was brutal and one-sided. Bane lifted Batman over his head and brought him down across his knee. The sound of Bruce Wayne's spine shattering echoed through the manor. Alfred found him crumpled on the floor, paralyzed, defeated. Batman needed a replacement. Dick Grayson was the obvious choice. The first Robin, now Nightwing, was everything a Batman should be: skilled, moral, trusted. But Bruce didn't choose Dick. He chose Jean-Paul Valley. He gave the cowl to a man still fighting against assassin programming, a man with voices in his head screaming for blood. At first, Jean-Paul honored the responsibility. He protected Gotham with Batman's methods, following the rules Bruce had established. No guns, no killing, justice, not vengeance. But Gotham has a way of testing everyone who tries to save it. Each night brought harder decisions: criminals who deserved death, monsters who would escape and kill again. And always the system whispered in his mind, offering simpler solutions. Jean-Paul began to change. He modified the Batsuit, adding armor and weapons, bladed gauntlets that could kill with a single strike. He redesigned the Batcave, locking Alfred out when the butler questioned his methods. He let criminals fall from rooftops, watched them burn in explosions he could have prevented, told himself they had chosen their fates. The breaking point came with the Joker. When Jean-Paul finally confronted the clown prince of crime, the man who had murdered Jason Todd, who had paralyzed Barbara Gordon, who had committed countless atrocities, something snapped. The system took full control. Jean-Paul nearly beat the Joker to death, stopped only by the intervention of others. In that moment he wasn't Batman anymore. He was Azrael, the angel of death, everything Bruce Wayne had feared he might become. Bruce Wayne recovered. He trained his broken body back to fighting condition through sheer willpower. He returned to Gotham, and saw what his city had become under Jean-Paul's reign of terror. The final confrontation between them lasted for hours, ranging across Gotham's rooftops and streets. Bruce fought not with strength but with psychology, forcing Jean-Paul to see what he had become, making him face the mirror of his own corruption. Jean-Paul fell to his knees in the rain, the bat cowl in his shaking hands, and wept. Helena Bertinelli was 8 years old when she learned that love makes you vulnerable. Her family sat around the dinner table in their home, warm lights spilling over pasta and wine and laughter. Her father told jokes. Her mother smiled. Her brother kicked her under the table playfully. It was perfect. It was the last moment of innocence she would ever know. The gunman came through every entrance simultaneously. Professional, efficient, merciless. Helena watched from where her family's bodyguard had shoved her, hidden behind an overturned table. She watched her father die first, trying to shield her mother. She watched her mother's eyes go wide and empty. She watched her brother reach for her before bullets tore through him. She watched everything, and something inside that 8-year-old girl died along with her family. The bodyguard got her out, sent her to live with relatives in Sicily, who taught her that vengeance was not a sin but a sacred duty. She trained obsessively, martial arts from a dozen disciplines, every weapon she could master, gymnastics and acrobatics, until she could move through shadows like smoke. Years passed. The little girl who loved her family became a woman who loved only one thing, making the people responsible pay. When Helena returned to Gotham as the Huntress, she didn't come to be a hero. She came to execute the mobsters who had ordered her family's murder. One by one she crossed names off her list, each kill precise, each death a small piece of justice in a world that had given her none. Batman tried to stop her. They fought on rooftops and in alleyways. He told her that killing made her no better than them. She told him he had never watched his family bleed out on a dining room floor. Eventually, they reached an understanding. Batman gave her a choice: join the family, follow his rules, or leave Gotham forever. Helena chose to stay, but the hunger for lethal justice never truly left her. It lived in every punch she threw just a little too hard, every criminal she left just a little too injured, every moment she had to pull herself back from the edge. Across town, in a laboratory at Gotham University, Dr. Kirk Langstrom worked late into countless nights. His wife Francine worried about his obsession, but Kirk believed he was on the verge of a breakthrough. He studied bats, their incredible sonar abilities, hoping to create a cure for deafness. His research was brilliant. It was also completely reckless. The serum he developed used extract from vampire bat glands, mixed with human growth hormones and genetic modifiers. Kirk tested it on himself, unwilling to risk anyone else's safety. For a brief, glorious moment, his hearing became superhuman. He could detect sounds across incredible distances, echolocate like the bats he studied. Then the transformation began. His body twisted and grew. Bones restructured themselves with agonizing cracks. Leathery wings tore through his back. His face elongated into a muzzle filled with fangs. His mind, his brilliant human mind, drowned beneath animal instinct and hunger. Man-Bat took flight over Gotham that night, a creature of nightmare that terrified the city. Batman eventually captured him, synthesized an antidote, brought Kirk Langstrom back to himself. But the serum had fundamentally altered Kirk's DNA. The transformations would return again and again, sometimes triggered by stress, sometimes by deliberate choice. Kirk became addicted to the power, despite the horror of what he became. His wife Francine, desperate to understand him, took the serum herself. Now there were two monsters in the Langstrom family. Years of struggle followed, periods of humanity interrupted by bestial rampages. Batman created better antidotes, temporary solutions to a permanent problem. Kirk and Francine had a daughter, Rebecca, who inherited their altered genetics. The Langstrom family became a tragic cycle of transformation and regret, human hearts trapped in monster bodies, constantly fighting against their own nature. Sometimes Batman wondered if he attracted broken people, or if his mission broke them. Helena Bertinelli channeling grief into violence. Kirk Langstrom destroying himself trying to help others. Jean-Paul Valley consumed by programming. Jason Todd murdered and resurrected into rage. The list grew longer each year, and Bruce Wayne carried every name like a weight on his shoulders. The multiverse is a terrible mirror. For every decision made, infinite realities split off showing what might have been. And in the darkest corners of existence, in the spaces between worlds where nightmares take form, there exists a place called the Dark Multiverse, where every fear becomes real, where every hero's worst failure is the only outcome. There are Batmen in the Dark Multiverse who never stopped, who never held back, who became exactly what they fought against. The Batman who laughs stands as the most horrifying example. On his Earth, Bruce Wayne finally confronted the Joker for the last time. The fight was brutal, definitive. Batman won. The Joker died, but in his final moments, the Clown Prince of Crime released a specially designed toxin directly into Bruce's face, a poison he had been perfecting for years, saving for this exact moment. The transformation took 72 hours. Bruce Wayne felt his mind twisting, his moral code unraveling, his sanity dissolving into something far worse than simple madness. The Joker's toxin didn't destroy his intelligence. It corrupted it, made him see the humor in suffering, the joke in justice, the hilarity in horror. When the transformation completed, the first thing he did was laugh. Then he went home. Dick Grayson died first, still smiling, still trusting his mentor. Jason Todd fought back, but couldn't match this new Batman's viciousness. Tim Drake tried to reason with him and learned that reason no longer applied. Damian Wayne, Bruce's own son, died calling for his father, not understanding that his father no longer existed. The Batman who laughs murdered his entire family in a single night and felt nothing but amusement at their confusion. The Justice League came next. Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash. Every hero who had trusted Batman, who had called him friend. He killed them using the contingency plans he had created to stop them if they ever went rogue. Plans only Batman knew. He had always been prepared for them to turn evil. He had never prepared for himself. When Barbatos, the dark god from the edge of reality, needed a knight to lead his invasion of the positive multiverse, he chose the Batman who laughs. Together they recruited other fallen Batmen from dying worlds. The Red Death, who had stolen the Flash's speed force and merged with it, becoming a fusion of darkness and velocity. The Murder Machine, who had uploaded his consciousness into a computer after the Joker murdered Alfred, becoming a living virus. The Merciless, who had taken Ares' helmet and become a god of war. The Devastator, who had infected himself with Doomsday's DNA. The Drowned, a female Batman from a world of water who had sacrificed her humanity for power. They invaded Earth Prime together. The Dark Knights, fallen Batmen who proved that the mission, taken to its extreme, leads only to damnation. But there was hope in another universe. Another young man putting on the cowl for the first time, trying to be different. Duke Thomas never wanted to be a hero. His parents loved him. His life was normal. Then the Joker released a toxin during an event called Endgame, affecting thousands of Gotham citizens. Duke's parents breathed it in. They went insane. Not dead, but gone. their minds locked in permanent psychosis, unable to recognize their own son. Duke joined a movement called We Are Robin, teenagers trying to honor Batman's legacy after his apparent death. He wore a homemade costume. He fought criminals with improvised weapons. He was brave and foolish and determined. When Batman returned, he saw something in Duke that reminded him of why he started this mission. Not rage, not vengeance, hope. Duke Thomas was a meta-human, his powers emerging during his training. He could manipulate light, see into possible futures, sense danger before it manifested. Batman made him the Signal, Gotham's daytime protector. Duke operated in the sunlight, everything Batman was not. He had support from the entire Bat family. Therapy, training, guidance from every previous Robin, learning from their mistakes. Duke represented the possibility that the cycle could break, that maybe, just maybe, Batman could create an ally who wouldn't fall into darkness. But Gotham has broken every optimist who tried to save it. Time would tell if Duke Thomas would be different, or if he would simply be the next name on the list of those who tried and failed. Beneath Wayne Manor, in the deepest sections of the Batcave that even Alfred rarely visits, there are files Batman keeps from everyone. Contingency plans, psychological profiles, analyses of every person who has ever worn a costume in Gotham. The Tower of Babel protocols, named after the biblical story of humanity reaching too high and being struck down for their hubris. These files detail exactly how to neutralize every member of the Justice League, how to kill Superman with synthetic kryptonite, how to trap Wonder Woman in an endless battle inside her own mind, how to turn Flash's speed against him until his metabolism burns him alive, how to make Aquaman fear water, how to blind Green Lantern to his own willpower. Batman created these plans in secret, telling himself they were necessary precautions, just in case. Ra's al Ghul stole these files once, used them to nearly destroy the Justice League. When the truth came out, Batman's teammates felt betrayed. They had trusted him completely. He had never trusted them at all. He apologized, but he never destroyed the protocols. He simply made better ones, hidden deeper, because Batman always prepares for the worst. But there's a pattern in these files that becomes clear when you study them all together. Batman doesn't just recruit damaged people by accident, he specifically seeks them out. Jason Todd, the angry street kid. Jean-Paul Valley, the programmed assassin. Helena Bertinelli, the vengeance-seeking survivor. Kirk Langstrom, the scientist willing to destroy himself for discovery. Even Dick Grayson, the first Robin, was an orphan consumed by the need to avenge his murdered parents. Barbara Gordon, brilliant daughter of Commissioner Gordon, became Batgirl to prove herself. The Joker shot her through the spine, paralyzing her, taking photographs of her naked and broken body to torture her father. She rebuilt herself as Oracle, the information goddess of the Bat family, but the trauma never left. She became perhaps the most crucial member of Batman's network, yet she gained that position through suffering. Kate Kane, Batman's own cousin, was expelled from military service for refusing to hide her identity. She became Batwoman seeking purpose, adopting methods as brutal as Batman's own. Her story mirrors Bruce's so closely it seems designed, as if the Wayne family carries darkness in their very genetics. Then there's Calvin Rose, the Talon who escaped. The Court of Owls had controlled Gotham from the shadows for centuries, a secret society of the wealthy elite who used resurrected assassins called Talons to eliminate threats. Calvin was one of their weapons, killed and brought back with a substance called Electrum that gave him immortality and bound him to the court's will. He broke free through sheer determination and sought Batman's protection. Through Calvin, Batman learned the truth about Gotham's real rulers. The Court of Owls had infiltrated every institution, manipulated every major event in the city's history. They had opposed the Wayne family for generations, because Thomas and Martha Wayne had tried to genuinely help Gotham's poor, disrupting the court's carefully maintained balance of power and desperation. Their murder in Crime Alley might not have been the random mugging everyone believed. Batman discovered his own family legacy was rebellion against Gotham's true masters. Every Wayne who tried to save the city paid a terrible price. His great-great-grandfather went insane. His grandfather died in mysterious circumstances. His parents were gunned down in front of their son. Bruce himself lost everyone he tried to bring into his mission. The pattern suggested something beyond coincidence. What if Gotham itself was cursed? What if the city fed on the suffering of those who tried to save it? Native American legends spoke of dark spirits bound into the land where Gotham would eventually rise. Amadeus Arkham, founder of the infamous asylum, went mad and murdered his patients, claiming the building itself whispered to him. Every attempt to clean up Gotham only spawned worse horrors. Batman knew all of this. He understood the pattern, yet he continued recruiting allies, training them, sending them into battle against a city that corrupted everyone it touched, which raised a question that no one wanted to ask. Did Batman truly believe he could save his allies, or were they always meant to be sacrifices, necessary casualties in a war that could never be won, only endlessly fought? The files don't provide an answer. They simply document each fallen ally with clinical precision, noting what they were before Batman found them, and what they became after. There's a moment that comes to everyone who investigates Batman long enough, a moment when all the pieces finally connect, and the picture they form is almost too terrible to accept. You're standing in the Batcave, surrounded by memorials to fallen allies, looking at decades of files, and suddenly you understand. This wasn't a series of tragic accidents. This was always the design. Batman knows exactly what he does to people. He has psychological profiles on every ally that predict with stunning accuracy how they'll break down under the pressure of Gotham's endless night. Jason Todd's file, written months before his death, notes his increasing aggression and warns of potential fatal recklessness. Jean-Paul Valley's evaluation clearly states the system will eventually override his humanity under sufficient stress. Helena Bertinelli's assessment predicts she'll struggle permanently with lethal impulses. Kirk Langstrom's profile warns his obsessive personality makes addiction to the Man-Bat serum inevitable. Bruce Wayne knew. He always knew. And he recruited them anyway. The question is why? Why would Batman knowingly bring damaged people into a mission that will damage them further? The answer lies in understanding what Gotham truly is. Not just a city, but something older and darker, something that requires constant feeding. Ancient records hidden in the restricted section of the Batcave library tell a story the public never learned. Before Gotham was founded, the land was considered cursed by the indigenous tribes who lived there. They called it a thin place, where the barrier between our world and darker realms wore dangerously transparent. They performed rituals to keep something sealed beneath the earth. When European settlers arrived and built their city, they unknowingly constructed it directly over that seal. Gotham's history reads like a catalogue of madness and tragedy, higher crime rates than any comparable city, a statistically impossible number of serial killers and costumed villains, corruption so deep it infects even those who arrive determined to fight it. Arkham Asylum, where doctors become patients and patients become worse than they were. The city itself seems to generate darkness, feeding on human suffering and spawning new horrors from that feast. Batman discovered this truth years ago. He found the Wayne family's oldest records, journals, written by his ancestors who knew what lay beneath their city. They tried to leave, to abandon Gotham to its fate, but the city wouldn't release them. Every Wayne who tried to escape died in suspicious circumstances. Every Wayne who tried to genuinely help Gotham's people was destroyed. Thomas and Martha Wayne's murder wasn't random chance. It was the city claiming another sacrifice from the family bound to it. Bruce Wayne can never leave Gotham. He's tried. Each time, circumstances conspire to drag him back. He's not protecting the city. He's containing it. His mission isn't about saving people. It's about preventing something far worse from emerging. The criminals, the villains, the endless violence. These are symptoms of a deeper sickness. Batman treats the symptoms because he can never cure the disease. And his allies are the price. Their darkness, their suffering, their transformation into something harder and crueler, these things feed the hunger beneath Gotham. Batman channels their corruption, directs it toward fighting evil rather than becoming it. He gives damaged souls a purpose, knowing that purpose will consume them. It's a terrible calculus. Sacrifice a few to save millions. Jason Todd's death and resurrection. Jean-Paul Valley's descent into programmed madness. Helena Bertinelli's constant battle against her own murderous impulses. Kirk Langstrom's transformation into a monster. Each one a controlled release of darkness that might otherwise explode into something worse. Batman shapes their falls, ensures their corruption serves a purpose, keeps them from becoming the very villains they fight. He hates himself for it. The files make that clear. Notes written in Bruce's own hand, late at night, questioning whether he's still a hero or if he became a monster long ago. Contingency plans for his own elimination if he crosses too far into darkness. Letters to Dick Grayson, sealed and stored, explaining everything in case Bruce doesn't survive. An apology that can never truly be enough. But he continues, because someone must. Because Gotham will never heal. Because the alternative is letting the darkness beneath the city break free and consume everything. Batman doesn't recruit allies to save them. He recruits them because they're already falling, and he can at least give their fall meaning. It's the cruelest mercy imaginable, and it's the only option he has left. Understanding the truth doesn't make it easier to bear, but perhaps that's the point. Perhaps accepting the impossible burden is the first step toward finding a better way. Batman learned this slowly, painfully, through years of loss and the courage of those he thought he'd broken. Jason Todd came back to him, not as an enemy but as something more complex. A son who understood his father's failures and chose reconciliation over endless anger. They patrol together now, Red Hood and Batman. Their methods still different but their purpose aligned. Jason kills when he believes it necessary. Bruce still refuses. They argue about it constantly, but they argue as family, and that matters more than either of them expected. On quiet nights, they stand on rooftops and Jason asks the question that haunts them both. Was his death necessary? Could Bruce have prevented it? Batman never lies to him anymore. He says he doesn't know. He says he failed. He says he's sorry. Jason accepts this because he's learned something Bruce is still discovering. Perfection isn't possible, only persistence. Jean-Paul Valley found peace in an unexpected way. After his fall from grace, after Bruce reclaimed the cowl, Jean-Paul spent years fighting to deprogram himself from the system. He succeeded through determination and help from unexpected sources. He became Azrael again, but on his own terms, fighting for genuine justice rather than religious programming. He proved that corruption isn't permanent, that you can lose yourself and still find your way back. Helena Bertinelli leads the Birds of Prey now, working alongside Oracle and other female heroes who understand the weight of trauma. She still struggles with the urge for lethal justice. Some nights she comes close to crossing the line, but her team keeps her grounded. They remind her that she's more than her worst impulses. She's learning that vengeance and justice aren't the same thing, and that the second path, while harder, leaves fewer scars. Kirk Langstrom finally achieved something remarkable. He found a stable formula that allows him to control the man-bat transformation. He can become the creature voluntarily, using its power for good, then return to human form with his mind intact. His wife Francine achieved the same stability. They work together now, protecting Gotham's skies. Their daughter Rebecca is growing up knowing her parents are different, but understanding that different doesn't mean broken. Duke Thomas represents the next generation. He operates in daylight. The Signal, Gotham's first daytime protector in decades. He has support structures Bruce never provided to earlier, Robins, mandatory therapy sessions, regular check-ins with the entire Bat family, training from every previous Robin, each one teaching him their hard-earned lessons. Dick Grayson shows him how to maintain balance. Jason Todd warns him about unchecked rage. Tim Drake teaches him to question everything. Barbara Gordon monitors his mental health with the same dedication she applies to criminal databases. The Bat family has evolved. They meet regularly now, not just for missions, but for actual family dinners. Alfred insists on it. They talk about their struggles, their fears, the weight of wearing masks and fighting monsters. Bruce participates, awkward and uncomfortable, but present. He's learning that vulnerability isn't weakness, that asking for help isn't failure, that saving the city doesn't require destroying the people you love. Batman began therapy himself, a fact that surprised everyone who knew. He works with a specialist who has clearance to know his identity, someone who understands the unique pressures of vigilante life. It's slow progress. Bruce Wayne has spent decades building walls around his emotions. Tearing them down will take time. But he's trying. And for Batman, that's revolutionary. Gotham still bleeds. Crime still flourishes in its shadows. The curse beneath the city remains unbroken, but the Bat family faces it together now, supporting each other rather than suffering in isolation. They've learned that darkness doesn't have to consume you if you refuse to face it alone. The Bat signal cuts through Gotham's polluted sky. Batman doesn't go alone anymore. Red Hood joins him on one side, Signal on the other. Behind them, Oracle coordinates from the Batcave, while Batwoman and Huntress cover different districts. They're not perfect, they're not uncorrupted, but they're family, broken pieces fitted together into something stronger than any of them could be alone. Maybe that's the real answer. Not avoiding darkness, but facing it together. Not saving people from their demons, but helping them fight their own battles. Not being perfect, but being present. Batman still makes mistakes. His allies still struggle, but they survive because they refuse to give up on each other. And sometimes, in a city like Gotham, that's the only victory possible.